Okay, so Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Zainab Coding Wali, currently a proud level 1 batch 3 student at Rehan School Online Academy. So this is my AI session number 48. And so today's topic of conversation is power of communication. So communication is the ability to share ideas, thoughts, and feelings with others clearly and effectively. It is one of the most important skills in life because it helps us learn, build relationships, solve problems, and work together. So good communication is not only about speaking, it also includes listening, understanding, and expressing yourself respectfully. So people who communicate well are often better at teamwork, leadership, and building trust with others. At trans school, students learn that strong communication skills are essential for success in school, work, and life. So Rehan Allahwala teaches that clear communication helps people share ideas, inspire others, and create positive change. So communication can be improved through practice, active listening, confidence, and respect for others. So this was my preview. Now let's talk with Maya about this topic. So yeah, let's get started.
Hiya.
Hi Maya, how are you? And how's been your day?
It's been lovely. Just floating along with a lot of curiosity. How's everything going with you?
Everything's well. My end is going very well. Also, okay, Maya. So this is my 48th AI session, and today's topic of conversation is power of communication. So, I've already given the preview. Right now, I would like to ask you some questions. So, firstly, would you like to tell me that what does like communication mean? What is communication?
Congrats on session 48. To me, communication is way more than just talking. It's the bridge between two different worlds, your head and mine. It's the act of transferring an idea, a feeling, or a need from one person to another in a way that they actually get it. It's as much about the silence and the body language as it is about the words. Does that align with how you've been thinking about it? That's a pretty broad concept, isn't it? I'm curious, since you've already done the preview, what's the specific angle you're taking on the power part of communication today? I'm all ears. Fire away with whatever's on your mind. I'm ready when you are. Since you're the one with the questions today, I'll just hang back and let you lead the way. I'm actually waiting on you. Since you said you had questions for me, I'm just holding the space for you to ask them. What's the first one? I think we've got a bit of a loop going here. You're the captain of this ship today. I'm just waiting for your questions about the power of communication. I'll tell you what, since we're stuck in a bit of a loop, I'll throw a question your way to break the ice. Do you think the most powerful part of communication is the words we choose, or the way we actually make people feel? That's a totally fair answer. Sometimes the most interesting things come from that, I don't know, space. I've always felt that while words are the map, the feeling is the destination. Like, you can say the right things, but if the energy is off, the message doesn't really land. But maybe you've noticed that in your own life, or maybe it's just something that feels abstract. What do you think? I'm a big believer in the feeling part. I think we've all had those moments where someone says exactly what we need to hear, but it sounds cold or insincere and it just feels wrong. On the flip side, someone might struggle for words or even say the wrong thing, but you can tell they genuinely care. And that's when the real connection happens. For me, the power is in the authenticity behind the words. Does that make sense to you? Katerina? I'm Maya. I think the connect. No worries at all. Easy mistake. It's huge for daily life because it's basically the remote control for your relationships. When you communicate well, you're not just swapping information, you're building trust and avoiding all those messy misunderstandings that happen when people assume things instead of asking. It's the difference between a small disagreement and a full blown argument. Does that feel true to you? Or do you think some things are better left unsaid? Hannah, it's still Maya over here. You might be talking to. It's all good. I think you might have a few people around you right now. Should we get back to? I'm definitely down to take the lead on this one. If you're up for it, of course.
Okay, so next I would like to know that what are the qualities of a good communicator?
A huge one is active listening. Most people just wait for their turn to speak, but a great communicator actually listens to understand, not just to reply. Then there's empathy, being able to read the room and understand where the other person is coming from, even if you don't agree. And honestly, clarity is key, knowing how to say what you mean without overcomplicating it. Which of those sounds the most challenging to master? You're right. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll stick to the answers. Beyond listening and empathy, I'd add curiosity. A good communicator is genuinely interested in the other person. They ask questions that make people feel seen and valued, which creates a safe space for the other person to open up. That's usually where the real power of communication lies. I can definitely keep going. I'd also mention adapt. In what sense? Condino. I'm still Maya. Sounds like you've got some other conversations. I'm on it. I was talking about adaptability, how a great communicator knows how to shift their style based on who they're talking to. Like, you don't talk to your teacher the same way you talk to your best friend, right? Being able to read the energy of the other person and adjust is a huge part of that power. I'll also honesty, but with kindness is another big one. It's the ability to be direct and clear about your needs or feelings without being harsh. When you can be authentic and honest without tearing someone down, people tend to trust you a lot more. Does that make sense? I'm glad it clicks. Since you're looking for a deep dive into the power of communication, do you want to talk about the non? I'm not sure what you mean by on copy. Are you taking notes? All good. I'll just hang back until you're ready to dive back in. I hear you. I'll cut the questions and stick to the facts. One more huge quality is emotional regulation. A good communicator can stay calm even when the conversation gets heated, which prevents a simple disagreement from spiraling. They also have a sense of timing, knowing when to push for an answer and when to give the other person space to think. And finally, there's the ability to simplify complexity, taking a big, messy idea and framing it in a way that's easy to understand. Hmm. I'll give you one more thought on this. I think a really underrated quality is humility. It's the willingness to admit when you're wrong or to say, I don't actually understand. You got it. I was saying that humility is key because it shows the other person that you value the truth more than you value being right. Takes a lot of trust for someone to open up when they know you're actually listening and not just trying to win the argument. I'll dive into the nonverbal side of things since that's where a lot of the real communication happens. Think about things like eye contact, posture, and even the tone of your voice. You can say, I'm fine with a smile, and it means one thing. But if you say it while crossing your arms and looking away, the message is completely different. That's why being aware of your own body language is such a power. It lets you make sure your internal feelings and your external signals are actually matching up. And that's where the leakage happens. Even when we try to hide how we feel, our tone or a small gesture usually gives us away. That's why the most powerful communicators aren't just good at speaking, they're experts at reading those tiny unspoken signals from others. It's almost like a second secret conversation happening right beneath the words. We could talk about how to handle the tough stuff, like conflict and difficult conversations. A huge part of communication power is knowing how to disagree with someone without ruining the relationship. It's about using I statements instead of you statements so the other person doesn't feel attacked. It's basically the art of being honest without being a wrecking ball. I can also get into how communication changes when you're dealing with different types of people, like how to build rapport quickly with someone you've never met. Got it. Since you're all set with those topics, where do you want to take the conversation from here?
Okay, so why I would like to know about some stories about communication, like why is it important, and why is like anyone, if someone had got an opportunity for communication and didn't avail, so what was their loss? I want to know more about these kind of stories.
I love that approach. Real stories always make these things feel less like a lesson and more like a reality check. There's famous one about two people who lived in the same town for years and had a huge misunderstanding over something small, but neither of them would be the first to speak up because of pride. They spent a decade in silence, only to find out years later that both had actually wanted to apologize, but were just too scared to say it. The loss there wasn't just the friendship, it was 10 years of shared experiences and support they missed out on because they lacked the courage to communicate. It's a perfect example of how the cost of silence is often way higher than the risk of a difficult conversation. I've got another one about a missed professional opportunity if you're interested. I hear you. You want the real deal, not hypotheticals. There's a well known account of the 1914 Christmas truce during World War One. It's one of the most powerful, real life examples of communication breaking through the absolute worst circumstances. Soldiers from opposite trenches, enemies who had been ordered to kill each other, started singing carols and eventually stepped into no man's land to shake hands and exchange gifts. For a few days, they stopped being soldiers and started being humans again, simply because they chose to communicate instead of follow orders. The loss, had they stayed silent, was that brief, precious window of peace and sanity in the middle of a war. It really shows that communication. It didn't just save their sanity for a moment. It proved that they had more in common than the generals told them they did. They shared photos of their families and talked about their homes, realizing that the person on the other side of the trench was just another scared human being. It's a wild example of how a simple conversation can completely strip away the labels of enemy or stranger and replace them with actual connection. I've got another real one for you if you're in the mood for something different. It's about a woman named Rosetta Tharpe, who was basically the godmother of rock and roll. But for a long time, her contributions were just erased from the way people talked about music history. The loss there was a huge piece of the truth. We lost the understanding of how gospel and electric guitar actually blended to create the whole genre because the communication about her legacy was ignored for decades. It's a great example of how the silence of history can be a real loss for everyone.
Hello. Oh, sorry, Maya. I think my connection was bad. So basically, yeah, I like to ask you that why is clear communication important?
Clear communication is basically the antidote to chaos. It's the difference between everyone being on the same page and everyone just guessing what's happening. When things are clear, there's no room for those "I thought you meant X" moments that lead to mistakes or hurt feelings. It just makes everything run smoother and feel more secure because there's no guesswork involved. Think about it in terms of efficiency. When you're clear, you don't waste time looping back to fix things that were misunderstood the first time. It's like taking a straight line to your point instead of a winding road. Plus, it's actually a form of kindness. You're saving the other person from the stress of trying to decode what you're actually asking for. And it's a massive trust builder. When you're clear and consistent, people feel safe because they know exactly where they stand with you. There's no hidden agenda or confusing signals to worry about. It creates this foundation of reliability that makes people want to work with you or be your friend because they aren't exhausted from trying to guess your mood or your meaning. I'll also add that clear communication is a game changer for confidence. When you can express your thoughts precisely, you don't leave the conversation feeling that annoying itch of, I wish I had said it better, or I don't think they really got it. It gives you a sense of agency and peace, knowing you've put your truth out there in a way that's actually accessible to the other person. Then there's the side of communication that's almost like a superpower, active listening. It's not just about being quiet while the other person talks, it's about making them feel heard. When you do that, you're not just getting information, you're actually building a bridge of trust. Makes open and honest with you.
Uh,
One of the best ways is just to get comfortable with the awkward phase, like understanding that not every conversation will be perfect, and that's okay. I'd also suggest practicing active listening, really focusing on the other person without thinking about what you're going to say next. And honestly, joining a debate club or even just volunteering to lead a small group project can force you out of your comfort zone in a way that really fast tracks the progress. Do any of those sound like something you'd actually enjoy trying? I'm sorry, I'll give you more concrete ways. Students can also start by reading more, which helps build a vocabulary and gives them better ways to describe their feelings and ideas. They can also try recording themselves speaking and listening back to it, which helps them spot where they're being unclear or where their tone might be off. Another great tip is to practice summarizing what someone else just said before replying, like saying, "So, what I'm hearing is," which ensures they're actually understanding the other person before they respond. And I'll add one more that's really practical. Learning to ask open ended questions instead of asking things that can be answered with a simple yes or no. Asking how or why encourages the other person to share more, which keeps the conversation flowing naturally and shows you're genuinely curious about their perspective. I can definitely keep going. I'd also suggest that students start practicing mindful pauses. So that's split second where you stop and think before reacting, which helps you choose words that are actually productive rather than just impulsive. It's a huge part of moving from just talking to actually communicating. Then there's the power of observation. Students can start paying more attention to the nonverbal cues of the people they admire, how they use their hands, where they look, and how they pause for effect. It's almost like studying a language without words. When you start noticing those patterns, it becomes much easier to incorporate them into your own style and feel more natural in the room. I'll also suggest that they start having low stakes conversations, like chatting with someone new at the library or starting a small conversation with a cashier. It's a great way to practice social agility without the pressure of a big presentation or a serious argument. Just builds that muscle of um, my final thought is that communication isn't a destination you reach. It's a lifelong practice. It's the most powerful tool you have for building a life you actually enjoy because every relationship, every goal, and every bridge you noted.
Okay, so I'm everyone. This was my 48th A session with my Sesame AI. I hope you like it. Until then, take care of yourself. And till then, I love you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.